Hey good people, this is Mark from Vintage Audio Nagoya, and I just got this beautiful RE101, and it's in really wonderful condition. You can see there's a little bit of surface rust and just filth on the hinges here, but overall it appears to be in really nice shape. But we're going to go through it and just get it all going. I haven't tried to test it in any way yet. We'll do that together if you want to stick around. So here's just a before look at it. I haven't even plugged it in yet. We're going to clean it first before I do anything, and you'll see why in just a second. So let's open these latches up here. And here's the reason I haven't even turned it on yet. We're extremely dusty. If you look at this area here, it's that way everywhere. But again, it just seems to be a really nice machine, just having been stored very poorly and in need of a good cleaning inside and out, and hopefully we'll get this thing back and ready to go into somebody's studio to give them years of enjoyment. Look at this beautiful thing. This used to belong to Mr. or Mrs. K. Sudo, apparently purchased in September 13th, 1976. Remember the old little units there? I had one of those when I was a kid. A lot of my stuff had mark labels on it, I'll tell you that. All right, I'm going to set the tripod up and let's dig into this beast and see how she looks inside. All right, we're set up to tackle this thing, so let's get rolling. We're just going to pull the cover off there. And, oh, check it out. We got the kerosene man coming by again. So we'll start by cracking these loose. I've talked about in other videos, but that little jingle you're hearing is the kerosene man, and he drives around and fills up your kerosene jugs. He knows to stop at your house if you put your blue kerosene jug out by the curb. That's pretty wild. Right, a little concerning, but it's so common with these. There's a little bit of corrosion around the screw heads. You gotta pull these little tabs out here. Sometimes they get really stuck in there, so you gotta fight with them a little bit. Okay. If you're doing this with RE201, you know, I've got a whole video dedicated to that, so I recommend just going over there and taking a look at that one. But if you're doing it with a 201, be careful, because we've got a reverb tank screwed into the bottom of the case that's attached by some RCA. So you need to, you know, undo those before you try to separate the two. I've never really made this check, so we're going to do it now. This is 197 on the cabinet, and let's see if we're 197 on the machine. No, it says 946 on the machine. So, you know, some units I've noticed lately have the same number on the, like Hawks have the same number on the cabinet as they do on the case of the machine. So, okay, our next step, I'm just going to remove these knurled screws, and we'll get this cover and tape out. You can see how dusty that is. That's why I'm not even turning this on until we get into it, because it's just, it's like sandpaper on the heads if you try to use it this way. But the original felt is on there. This machine is in really nice condition. Just suffered from some poor storage apparently. Okay, let's get the tape out. Oh, the felt looks good. So we'll just unweave this. And we'll just hang this out of the way. Let's see if it's an original. Appears to be an original tape. It's good. Let's take a look at the underside. Well, just as I was hoping, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful inside. And that's what we like. So we'll start with the way we always do, and that's by just spraying these down. And working them side to side. They're noticeably stiff, so they're definitely in need of this. It's not necessary to go overboard with this stuff, really. Typically, just a good little squirt is all you need. This is one area I've noticed that can really cause problems on a Space Echo, is this little normal echo switch. It can affect it even when it's not in that jack, so make sure you get that one good, however. My little technique here when spraying these is I put it all the way to the bottom, and then the switch opens up a little cavity in there and allows you to just fill up a little bit of contact cleaner in that little space, so it's a little bit more effective way of doing it, I think. I'm going to spray all these little mini pots inside, and I'm just going to give them a turn back and forth to get things moving, because it's probably been a number of years since anything's been moved. Now, you don't necessarily have to do this if you're working on your own machine, but I like to do it. If you do turn these, make sure you turn them back to the position they were in before. They've been factory set more than likely, especially in a machine of this condition. So they were set to the optimal position by the factory, and chances are they're still going to be okay in that spot, but we just want to get them moving back and forth so that in case there's any corrosion in there, we kind of clean that up. This is our intensity pot, our level pot. They're all labeled on a 101, but again, I just like to go back and forth just a little bit and get them back to where they were before. This is the VU meter, and this is the bias. And again, make sure we go right back to where you were before you started. Now you'll notice there's a lot of open spaces on a 101. They use the same circuit board for other things, so there's a lot of blank areas that just aren't utilized here. This appears to have all the original capacitors in it, which is good and bad. Good in the sense that it hasn't been messed with by an amateur over the years. Bad in the sense that more often than not, these are going to need to be replaced at some point, if not right now. We'll check them out first and see how they are. And another thing I like to do, which is probably again unnecessary, but I don't see why it would ever hurt anything, and that's just to pull these switches back a little bit and get a little bit of contact cleaner in there and allow those to get a real fresh contact there. You can pull them right off if you want and put them back on, but I think just pulling them out a little bit and pushing them back in is all we need to do, really. Oh, this is a beautiful machine. I mean, it really is. There it is. It's just like a wire brush, and I hit that with a little bit of contact cleaner and just run it in and out of these a few times. This hopefully eliminates us having to twist the plug back and forth a few times. I mean, that's essentially how to fix these. You just move your plug around until it makes contact, but this will clean it up nicely for us. Okay, let's flip her back over. All right, next up, I'm going to start by just cleaning off this deck and getting that free of all this dust here. I'm going to open this up first. We're going to definitely lubricate this. This appears to be, I've never gotten one, but it appears to be an original bag here, made in Japan. I haven't seen that exact style, but it seems to be original. Alright, we're going to try a different driver. You know, kind of goes without saying, but if you're new to working on any of this stuff, if the driver doesn't seem to really fit the head, make sure you try another driver. You don't want to be rounding these things off and marring up your screws for no reason. Now when you pull this apart, you know, just double check everything and see the position everything's in. We've got a little locking washer, a flat washer, and a piece of felt. Those are the order things are in. Again, you can see how much dust is on that pinch roller. So we're going to clean all that up. Okay, I'm going to go get a soapy rag, and we're going to go after this. Actually, I'm going to pull this bearing out as well. And again, everything's a little different here, so just make sure how things were when you took them apart. We've got a big washer here, and then that's it. This fits inside of the bearing here. Let's just feel how this bearing seems. Not bad, but it's, you know, it's definitely sticky. So we'll get that freshened up as well. Okay, soapy water, clean the deck time. I'll be back. Back with some soapy water and a toothbrush. And one more item I'm going to pull off is this little top chrome cover. Clean that up good before we put it back on. Make sure you keep everything organized so you know exactly where everything goes back. I've done enough of these now that I know what screws go where, but a good idea is like a little pill tray. You know, it's got like a 7-day pill tray or any kind of little organizer, and you can put those screws in individual spots, or even make some kind of notation. You know, another good idea, could have done this ahead of time probably, but we'll do it right now, is if it's your first time doing anything like this, you know, just draw yourself a picture of what everything looks like. And then there aren't many screws here, but let's just imagine that there were a couple more screws that went in here, and then you can just poke a hole in your paper or a piece of cardboard and put the screws in the hole on your diagram where they relate to the machine, and then you keep that thing over off to the side, and that way you know exactly when the time comes to put them back. You've got, just pull them out of the hole on your picture and put them back in the hole in the machine. So that works really well. I'm into old Volkswagens and old motorcycles and I got an old Porsche here in Japan in addition to the music stuff. So with these things, you know, you get 10, 12 screws. It's not that big of a deal, but you know, I went pretty deep in my old 911 on numerous occasions, but most recently a couple years ago I went really deep, and I had an awful lot of little mini diagrams laid out with where the screws went in there. I used to be a bag and tag guy. You know, you put everything in a little Ziploc bag and write on it what it was, but if you don't do an individual bag for everything, you end up with a bag with a bunch of screws in it that say something like intake manifold, you know, but maybe they're not all the same screws, and you forget, you think, oh, I'll remember that, and then the project runs on a little bit longer than you imagined it was going to, and you might have remembered it had you put it back together the following weekend, but because of life getting in the way, you know, you end up having to put things off for a while, and pretty soon it's a month before you're getting back to putting something together, or you got to wait for parts or something like that. So all of a sudden it's been an awful long time since you started your project, and you don't exactly remember where everything's supposed to go. So anyway, I think you're getting it. Label it and make sure you know where everything's going back to. Again, I'm just using soapy water here and a Q-tip to get underneath all these heads. This is more cosmetic than anything, but you know, these are beautiful machines, so we want them to look really good. And dust that's down here can certainly get kicked up and find its way onto your tape path or worst case scenario, onto your heads. And we're just going to wear them out prematurely, because dust and dirt on that kind of a surface acts just like a little sandpaper, slowly marring up your beautiful heads. So let's avoid that, shall we? Alright, I'm going to be quiet for a second and just work on this. If you find yourself with a really filthy machine, you know, you can pull this whole deck off and get in there and clean underneath that, you know, clean the whole thing. This one isn't that bad, so we're just going to get in there and get as much of that dust off as we can. It's just going to be the majority of it. Got little locking washers there, so be careful with those. Behind here we can get to the VU meter, but for now I just want to get in here and clean this area out where these two meet. Okay, I've got a few stains here that don't want to come off with soapy water, so I'm going to get a little bit of wax, and we'll go after those with some wax. So I went and grabbed a damp rag with a little bit of kind of a rubbing compound wax on it, and I'll just work those, hopefully work those spots out. And we seem to be doing a pretty good job. Unfortunately, this is a little speck of surface rust right here, so just going to do the best we can with it. Whenever you're working on something like this, don't spend too much time, working on one spot, because you're going to end up dulling that area and making it noticeable that you've done just that. So you can spend a little bit of extra effort on that one area, but really try to be consistent everywhere you go, so that you don't leave any obvious traces of you working on that spot. That goes for anything, especially a car fender or a door, part of your gas tank. Nothing worse than trying to improve something only to make it worse. Okay, oh, that is Charlie. In other words, high sheen. I don't have any kids, but I do throw some dad jokes around from time to time. So be forewarned. You may get some of that action. All right, locking washers and little screws back in. Okay, we're looking good. Next up, I'm going to go after these heads a little bit with some head cleaning solution and some Q-tips. I'll be right back. Okay, what we have here is what's left of my head cleaning liquid. This is made by Audio Technica, but you can use just alcohol. And what I mean by what's left of is that I often forget to put my cap on, and I've knocked it over a couple times and was able to save it. So, put your cap back on when you're not using stuff. I say these things for you, but also as a reminder to myself, because I often forget my own little axioms. Alright, you can see what's coming off these heads. You don't want to use anything too abrasive on these, and I'm working them pretty hard in reality here, but you know, you don't want to use any kind of you know, Scotch pad or anything like that on them for sure. Although the item that comes with the Roland cleaning kit is very much like the modern version of the those little foam pads that you can buy at the dollar store or wherever, you know, like little chunks of cleaning foam. That's almost the consistency of the things that come with the real kit, and they're definitely more abrasive than a Q-tip. So I think you could get a little bit stronger if you had to, and maybe even one of those little cleaning things, but especially for these heads, as nice as they are, I'm just going to stick with the you know, Q-tip and the cleaning liquid there. Alright, now as long as we've got this Q-tip with alcohol on it, we'll just work that around here too. When you're cleaning this area, don't try not to bend this copper piece too much, because hopefully it's in a good position already, and that can really affect your amount of echo. So you don't want to get that out of whack. Now there is a fair amount of buildup of oils and things on here, so I'm going to try to clean that up a little bit. And what I'm just going to do here is this is that soapy rag again, and I've just taken a screwdriver behind there, and I'm just going to work that back and forth across the front of that felt. You can see what's coming off, but we're going to try to get some of that oil off the felt. You can get kits to replace this felt, but this is in really good condition, just a little discolored from some oil. I'm going to fluff it up just a little bit, but there's no reason to no need to replace that. No reason to replace that. And the same with those. Now I'm going to get a little chrome polish and carefully polish up this area. Okay, so for this, I just got a little bit of soapy water on there, and I'm going to use some of this old school metal polish. And you don't need to push real hard on this chrome, because you'll scratch the chrome up even with just a simple Q-tip if we get carried away. So I like to get it wet first, and then nice and gently here. Last thing we want to do is scratch any of this. If it's got some good corrosion on it, you can work on it a little bit like I am there. You really want to avoid anything abrasive or anything too strong of a cleaning liquid on the sticker, because unfortunately I learned the hard way, and you know, if you get something real a harsh cleaner on there like 409 or something like that, you can easily pull the screen printing right off that sticker. So you know, use your utmost care there. Okay, next up, I'm going to go clean this up, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to go clean this up off camera, which, you know, just consists of washing it with some soapy water. So we'll be right back with that looking mint. Okay, it's time to make a test tape here. And this probably won't be the one that's going to stay in it, but this is, I'll show you my method here for making quick tapes. I'm going to make it with just this Scotch tape here, because I think anybody can use this. I do have some other, specific splicing tape, and there's a lot of different options out there. This is some old school splicing tape, but let's get a general feel for this. Now I realize you're not going to be able to see a lot of this, but what I'm doing here is just taking the tape that was in it and getting a general feel for the length. So we got this folded over, so there's 4 of that length basically. And this is an old karaoke tape that is in really good condition. It didn't seem to have gotten much use. So we're just going to get this about the same length. It doesn't have to be that scientific here. But I'm going to say somewhere around there is about the same length. And one more time, we got 1, 2. So we're just going to cut this right about there for now, and we'll get this tape out of here. I got quite a few of these, and you can just see how beautiful they are. There were some I've taken out of the package. They never opened, so it's essentially unused tape. So they make pretty good tapes. They're not, exactly the same quality, I don't think, as a original Roland tape would have been, but they make pretty good tapes. So now, what we need to do is make sure we're facing the same direction, and it's not so important at this point because we know we're facing the same direction because the colors are the same. But we're just going to get the 2 ends together, overlap them about as perfectly as you can, so they're not like this or out of whack in any way. So we're going to get them lined up, and then I'm going to cut these at an angle, something like that. Now we got to make sure that there isn't a kink in this anywhere, so this requires getting the tape nice and straight, and basically starting on one end, and we're going to tape on this side of it. You can see the differences here in the tape. So we're going to start here. I'm going to run this through my fingers the whole way so that I'm certain there's no twist in this tape anywhere. Otherwise it's going to it's just not going to work for us. It's going to be all messed up. So there we are. Now to do this on camera, I would normally have a better system for this. You want to avoid touching your finger or the tape too much. I just washed my hands prior to doing this, so we're trying to avoid getting a lot of oil on them. And I'm just going to put this. Now, normally I would do this on the table, which is a lot easier. And just going to pinch those 2 together like that. And then again, we know that this is the correct direction. There's no twist in it anywhere. So I am just going to put this down on the table. Hopefully you're still seeing it. I can't see the camera. And I'm just going to line these 2 up the best I can without overlapping and without leaving any kind of a gap. And that's pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. Alright, so there it is. Now we want to make sure we don't have any gap in there, because otherwise the adhesive tape is going to end up on your heads, and that's the last thing we want. And we don't want anything sticking out over the side. So you can see I've got a little bit hanging over the side here. So I'm just going to take my scissors. We'll trim that right off. Ooh, we can get a little more than that. We don't want any cellophane tape showing anywhere. Okay. Again, this is probably not going to be the tape that's going to be on it for very long, so certainly not forever. So we'll just give it a good cut here. One more. This can be done easier with a razor blade on a table, but I'm just going to show you how we can do it this way. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Again, we've got no gap, and we've got essentially no overlap. If you got an overlap, it seems to pick up the recorded music behind it. So you hear a little of whatever was recorded on there. So now we're just going to get this in a space where it's not going to bind up with anything. And boy, this is a really nice tape. It's essentially new tape. So we're going to get this in here. Let me adjust this camera and we'll see if we can get you a better view of this. Forgive the momentary lapse of reason here. All right. That's probably better. So, yeah, I see we're looking better. We're going to get this, again, without bending the heck out of that copper. And put that in there. And then we got to go around this little unit. And all this is laid out for you on your machine here, as long as you didn't clean that with too harsh of a chemical. So you've taken all that printing off. There we go, under that, through the little green trap door. What's going on behind the green door? All right, that's as simple as that. And we're going to put the cover on without fastening it. And then we're just going to monitor the stitch. And we got to plug this in. So we're just going to monitor this and make sure that the tape doesn't kink or bind in any way. So you kind of got to hold this one. And I found if you put this on the slowest rate, you've got a better likelihood of success. And let's see if we can do this without the cover so you can get a feel for what's happening here. So you can see how we're drawing that tape in, and we just want to make sure there's no kinks in it anywhere. All right, we're looking great. Now we'll close this little door. So it's taken the tape wonderfully. We turn the repeat rate up, and we can see how the tape goes so much faster in there. We kind of double check our situation here, and everything's looking great. So let's put, oops, see, that's why we want the cover on. Everything was looking great. If that happens, you just got to run through the whole cycle one more time, and hopefully this will end up laying flat again. There it is. All right, so now let's get the cover on before we do that again. All right, kicked out the back. All good. All right, sealer down. Off camera, I cleaned up all 4 of these, all 5 of these little things, so we'll put those back on. I didn't go crazy with these, but I just hit them with a little chrome polish. And I probably could have done a little more. Those are things we can do on a rainy day if you think you need to. All right. In. Okay, I'm going to shut this beast off, and I'm going to go get a couple of a microphone and an out, and we'll put this back on right now. This is our little cover here. Just kind of fits in there. Okay, I'm going to plug it in and we'll come back. Oh, exciting. I hooked a mic up and an output. We got power. Let's turn it on and see what happens here. Ooh, let's turn all these down. Thought I had them down. We're going to go, let's put these in the middle. Here we go. Check, check. Check, check, check. Nothing. Check, 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 check. Ooh, we got nothing. Boy, we should have something. Check, 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 check. Ooh, we got something here. Check, normal, echo. Check, 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 check. All right, we're gonna have to do some more diagnostics here. Okay, I like to eliminate all the simplest things first. So we're going to go through and just spray everything one more time. And I'm really feeling a little suspect about that one switch, because we do get some echo while playing around with that switch. So let's get this cleaned up. Again, this machine is in such great condition that I wasn't anticipating any issues here, but let's just double check for any kind of broken wires or anything. I don't see anything there. I'm going to give this one more. Okay. I don't have to worry about those. This is the motor control here, and that's working fine, so we don't have an issue with that. Check, check, check. 1, 2, check, 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 check. 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 1, 2, 3, 4. Check. Check, check, check. 1, 2, check. Check. 1. Check.
Check. Check.
1, 2.
Check. Check.
1, 2.
It's a capacitor issue. Check.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
Check. Check 1, 2.
Check. Check 1, 2. Okay, people, I'm back down here, and I'm not going to work on it much longer tonight, but I think I've come to the conclusion that it's a capacitor-related issue, and I'll explain to you why I think that. I'm not an electrical engineer by any stretch of the imagination, all right? I just got into tape echo, and much like I've done with cars, I just, when a problem arises, I try to figure out what the problem is and then figure out how to fix it. So that's where we are with this stuff. I try to figure out what things are, and if what I do doesn't fix it, then we learn what it might be in addition to that, and we keep learning. I've learned so much in the last couple of years. And I really want to give a quick shout out to Uncle Doug, who has a beautiful channel on YouTube about mainly tube related amps, but he helped me repair a couple of tube amps, not directly, but through his video tutorials. So shout out to Uncle Doug and the countless other people who have explained to me what a capacitor is and a resistor and its role, and I knew none of these things 3 years ago. All right, so anyway, that being said, I think this is a capacitor related issue because check this out. Check 1, 2, check 1, 2. We've got some sound, but when I turn the power off, everything starts to work great just for a second.
Turn it back on. Check.
Check. We got beautiful echoes.
Turn it off. Check.
Turn it on.
Check. Check 1, 2.
And it all works great for a second.
Turn it off.
And
turn it on. Check. Check.
Check. Check. Check. And so you get it, and I think, and again, somebody's going to probably tell me, and if you can, please do. But what I'm thinking is the initial power surge is powering up what we've got, but whatever capacitor is causing that issue, we're not storing or allowing transfer of voltage the way we should. So I think we got ourselves a bad cap. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, they all need to be replaced at some point. I think I'm going to go ahead and do all the caps on this machine because, again, I think this might end up being a keeper for me. Look at it. It's just mint. So I think we'll do the caps on this. If you want to stick around for that project, it won't be today, but we'll do them soon. Okay, unfortunately, I am two capacitors shy of having all the capacitors I need. I'm going to focus on the power side of this first because I just got a gut feeling that it's there. Here's my big dilemma. There's two, and these are the caps that I think are possibly to blame. but I only have one of them on hand, and I'm going to try to do it today. So it's a 50-50 gamble on which one of these two you take out. Oh, wish me luck, people. It's a coin toss. But I'm going to choose one of these two to replace and hope it's the right one. And then I don't have a 47 UF 25 volt, so we're going to skip that one. But we're going to replace every other capacitor on this power board side of things and see if that gives us the desired result. So here we go. Let's see how much room we can get here. I'm going to start by just unhooking these two power leads here. And the way they're positioned, we're not going to forget, but I'm just going to put a little tiny F on here telling me that that's the front. All right. Move that out of the way. I don't think I'm going to show you this whole operation, but we'll get started here. You don't have to watch me solder every single capacitor in here. But first I want to see how much room I have, and hopefully I'm going to be able to do this without having to undo any lines. So let's see how much movement we get. Not a ton. I like to try to keep these little hand-tied wire looms intact whenever possible because, you know, it's original and it's beautiful and it's part of the history of the machine here. So I'm going to try to determine which ones I could undo that would give us the most movement. And you know, I think I'm going to just work on this end for now. So we'll do it without unhooking anything at the moment. I'm going to find something to prop that up with. Okay, with snipping one of the little looms here, loom ties, I was able to get it tipped up enough that I think I'm going to be able to work on it in this position. So that's probably going to give me enough space to at least replace a few on this end. We'll see how far we get. Okay, so we're going to start with, I've decided I'm going to go with this one. Again, there's no rhyme or reason. Both of these caps appear fine, so there's no, I don't see any leakage that's making me choose one over the other, but I'm just going to go with this one. And I may run down and get some caps later today even, so I may, you know, as long as I've got this apart, now's the time to do it. But it's cold and it's windy. It's not the best day to go downtown. Let me clean this tip up a little bit. Okay, and I've got a super sucker, SS02, the solder super sucker. So let's do some sucking. Boy, it's a less than ideal angle. Okay, we got one out here, and the negative is facing me. So obviously you want to keep track of that. And again, no signs of leakage or bulging on this, so you know, it may not be our issue, but it's definitely due for one. If you're totally new to this, there's always a marking on the capacitor that tells you which side is the negative side. And again, remember, negative is towards me. So we'll just see if we can get this back in there. And we got to be careful because this is a 16 volt, and normally I don't like having all these right in front of me. Here we are. 25 volt, 1000 UF, negative towards me. So let's get that in there. Okay, there's all kinds of things on the market, but this is something I've cobbled up here. You can clamp it to your desk, and then we got two flexible arms that allow me to hold things in position where I can solder them or work on them. You know, it's useful in so many different applications. For this situation, I'm just going to use the weight of itself to help hold me out of the way here a little bit. And let's get that soldered in there. Okay, one down, long ways to go. So I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll come back and show you the progress. Okay, we're moving along. I've got 3 in right now. So next up, we've got a 50 volt 1 UF here, and let me just show you my technique for this. Now again, I'm not an engineer, but just kind of locate this thing on the board, and then you can do it by looking through the light of the circuit board and get a real feel for where it is exactly. This is the way I do it. So it's right here, and then just heat up one side and rock the capacitor the opposite direction, and it'll start to free itself. Rock it again, and you can just pull it right out at that point. And keep track of your orientation. The board will tell you too, but negative is facing that way. Double check what you've got. 50 volt 1 UF, negative is facing the wall. Again, the board will tell us. But then we can locate one of those. So we've got a 50 volt 1 UF, and you can see the size difference over time. You know, things have gotten so much smaller. And remember, we got negative towards the wall, and we're going to use the board to double check that. And that's true. And now, I didn't suck anything off the board here, but we'll just heat that back up. And then we can work it through. And get it kind of lined up where you want it. And I'm going to use this to probably back up now that I don't need to look at the top so much. And then I just bend these off to the sides a little bit. And you want to avoid a cold joint by making sure you get the stem of the, don't just heat up that pool that's left over there, but get the stem warm, nice and warm first of the capacitor, and then bring it down into the pool, and you should get a nice tight joint that way. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, you should have removed all that old solder. And, you know, you certainly can. Probably recommended. But I have pretty good luck doing it this way. All right. All right, again, you don't have to watch all of these, but that's how I'm doing them. So there's one more down. Okay, I'm all ready to be put back together here, and I did all the caps that I had. Unfortunately, like we talked about, we've got 125 volt. I didn't go to the store, obviously. 125 volt 1000 UF that is not replaced, and then we've got a 47 UF 25 volt that I didn't have. So it's one more that is going to have to remain. Now, all that jostling around, I just did a cursory check here to make sure everything else seemed like it was together. And, oh, damn. That's the worst case scenario. Oops. Let's see if we can get that out of there. Oh, thank you. So all my jostling around, I loosened up the VU meter. Sorry, I'm babbling here, people. All this moving around, I noticed that this has come undone. So we're heating up the soldering iron one more time. We'll put that back on, and everything else looked pretty good. I didn't see any solder joints that looked real suspect. I did hit a couple. So anyway, I'm going to solder the VU meter back on here, and then we can fire this baby up and see if we got any kind of result. So let's flip it over and check it out. It's a little while later. I went to the store and bought some fuses because one fuse was, after I turned it back on, the VU meter light was out. So, and it was a burnt fuse. So I think that might have been because I unhooked it, and who knows. Well, anyway, I bought a fuse for it. So let's check her out. This is our first run after replacing the majority of the caps on the power board there. And we gambled, remember, 50-50 on that one. Hopefully we chose the right one. We'll see what happens here. Check, check, check. We got nothing. Check, check,
check,
one,
check, 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 check 1, 2.
Well, we're a lot better than we were, that's for sure.
Check, 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 check.
Let's see, let's get this to medium. There we go, high. We'll put her on medium output. Oh, we're working. Look at this. Check. All right, back here. Echo volume, repeat rate. Check, 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 check. Intensity, check. Beautiful. Okay, we're looking pretty good. Mic volume, output. Let me turn this up. And we don't have to overdrive this thing quite so much. Okay, 1, check. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, you sound wonderful, babe. 2, mic 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Instrument. Now again, we got to crank this up because it's not meant to be. We're on normal. Echo. 1, 2. All right, people. I'd say we gambled correctly on one of those two big caps. If that was the difference, whatever we did, we fixed it, so we can feel good about ourselves. Okay, I'm gonna button this thing back up, and we are ready to rip. Terrific. All right, we're up on the roof here, and I'm going to clean this cabinet, but I thought I'd give you a quick look at the old trains going by. I'll give you a good look at the whole scene here, actually. So we're in Nagoya, Japan. It's January 15th, 12th, something like that. So it's a little chilly out here, about 40 degrees. And things are covered up for the winter-ish season. But anyway, this is the Meitetsu train line that runs right here, and then off in the distance That gray line that's up above there, that's the Shinkansen train that runs between Osaka and Tokyo. And that's just a little park across the way. This is a shrine here. Those red gates are torii. You walk through to reach the main portion of the shrine. And we're in Minami-ku, which Minami is the southern portion of the city. So sorry for the wind noise. You're probably getting pretty substantial wind noise at the moment. Pretty windy up here. But anyway, let's go ahead and clean this cabinet up. It's awful dusty and the dirt is right into the grain. So we're going to get this one a good scrub. I don't always go. I don't like to get these too wet if I can avoid it. But this is dirty enough that I think we're going to give it a good clean. Here comes another train heading our way. All right, back to the task at hand here. So I'm just going to work this Tolex a little bit here gently. These things are so thick that you can get in here and scrub them pretty good without worrying too much about the Tolex. Here's the ever-present kerosene truck driving around. That's just Joy dish soap diluted a little bit with some water. And then I've got just a little bit of chrome polish here. This old school Glaster polish. And a nice wet piece of steel wool will hit those chrome hinges a little bit. That's a cute little two-car there. In the afternoon there isn't as much traffic, so the local train becomes just a little two-car, which is kind of cute. In the country they become just a single car. It's basically a bus on the tracks. It's always nice to see those. Okay, let's get this a rinse. I want to avoid keeping these wet very long because the Tolex starts to separate, wherever it's glued in the corners. So the least amount of time wet is better. Especially inside. And for this part, I'm just going to give this a real gentle wipe down. Okay, and then just to help ensure we don't get any separation on our glue, I'm just going to wipe these down and let them help them dry a little faster. But they sure look nice when they're brought back completely clean. And then I'll just set this out here in the sun and let it dry a little bit that way as well. There goes the Shinkansen. I don't know if you can hear it probably. Okay, that's that. I'll let those dry in the sun. That's the airport train that's heading from Nagoya Station down to the Centrair International Airport. So again, we'll just let these dry in the sun for a few minutes. Temperature is really quite cool, so you know, they're certainly not going to be damaged by the sun in any way. But we'll let those dry and I'll come back and get them in a few minutes. Completely unrelated, but kind of interesting, is this pair of World War II Japanese naval binoculars. These things are just massive. To give you an idea, here's the Space Echo case. So in comparison to Space Echo, you can see how big those things are, but they are just terrific to look out at the night sky or see the moon with. I got a tripod that I've kind of cobbled together out of a surveyor's tripod. But wonderful old binocs. Okay, here's not the most interesting aspect of the refurbishing, but I always like to give these cords a good draw through. Clean these babies up a little bit. I'll show you why in a second. And again, keep in mind, this is an extremely clean machine to begin with. But that's the kind of stuff that comes off. You know, they're 40 years old plus, so things are going to get dirty over that time. I love these with the original roll and cord ties. I mean, you find them like this, they're just terrific. If you do the old heavy pull through, you know, don't put any pressure on the plug itself, obviously. You know, we don't want to be pulling from here, so you know, give the pinch there and start your pull. Okay, it's time to bring things together. And I'm going to start by just pulling this off. I like to hit these with a little bit of Armor All or Armor All equivalent, just to protect that Tolex a little bit. So now's a great time to do that, because you can get into parts here. You know, you're not getting any Armor All on the machine face or anywhere else. So just hit all these areas here, and you can get behind areas where you don't normally get, but it's good just to, I think, protect that Tolex a little bit. So I'm going to give this thing a whole wipe down here, and then I'll come back for the old reassembly. After we're armor-alled, I like to wash my hands up, because I don't want to be touching this with those greasy armor-all fingers. So slide this back in here. And we'll get this reunited, and it feels so good. Oops. Reunited, and it's understood. I didn't really clean this back here, so we're gonna just wipe this area down a little bit. Careful of that paper. Don't get that too wet. Reunited. Captain and Tennille, baby, here we go. Come on, Captain. This is the most exciting part of the whole process, obviously. Okay, couldn't look much better. Now, let's get our screws back in, and I'm going to grab a little wire brush and clean up just that little bit of corrosion that's on those things there. Now, remember, we've got these little units that get slipped in between here. Line those up. Well, that went pretty smooth. They don't always go together that. Sometimes you got to fight them a little bit. Try to line them up. All right. We'll give that a little wipe down here too. I didn't polish these at all. I like to wax those typically, but they look pretty good. We'll put them in. We're getting excited. All right. Get a little bit of that corrosion off there. We don't have to get it all, but just any loose chunks. See if that lines up as easily. Oh my God. We are batting 500. Okay, put this on its side. Get those ones on the bottom. Still seeing this thing all right? Let's just adjust that a little bit. A good method to use, I've got just a little poker, and you get in here and you should feel the chassis. And then if you go side to side, you can kind of figure out, you know, where the problem is. So that should be lined up pretty good right now. And let's see. Reunited in it. There we go. It seems like I can push in on it a little bit. Let's see if that does anything for us. All right, a little push in was required. That one I can tell just went in the spot. All right. And then, got our last one here, Saigo Takamori. Saigo Takamori is the last samurai, basically the character that Tom Cruise kind of hangs around with there. That story's, you know, highly fictionalized, but Saigo was basically the last samurai that held out, didn't think that that we should capitulate to the West, we being them, Japanese, the West being me, American. Okay, you're getting the deal, you're getting the idea, I think. Let's put that cover on it. Oh, look at it. Isn't it wonderful? Oh, yes. You can do this to your machine too, people. Even if you've had it a long time, just get in there and clean it up, dust it, get everything nice and squared away. Okay, let's plug it in again and just make sure we're as good as we think we are. All right, we're in, powered up, looking good. Throw this amp on. And stick these babies in. Should have turned that on after. Let's grab the mic. Let's get you a better view of this beast. Oh yeah. I'll even turn it to face you. Here we go. Check. 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 Check.
Check.
Okay.
I'm a little bit concerned yet, and I think check, 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 check.
Okay, I've come to the conclusion that, and this is totally conjecture, I don't have any idea what I'm talking about, but before I replaced the caps, it would work when you turn it on or off. There's like a little power surge there. I think I recorded that. And these should basically come on instantaneously. But if you notice, we'll do it one more time. Check, 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 check.
check, check. It's as if it takes a moment to get power up to it. So I think we're in need of that other large cap to be replaced. Check.
Once we get warm, we seem to be doing pretty good. So I'm going to definitely get another cap next time I run to town.
I'm in the middle of town here, by the way, but the electronics
shop is quite a ways away. There's a small little district in Nagoya called Osu, and it was kind of a black market area after the war, all kinds of ramshackle little shops, and it just developed into a permanent thing. And you can buy just about anything down there. It's no longer a black market, but it's a really funky array of shops. It stretches for blocks and blocks with hundreds of shops. And it's used things and used clothes and used vintage musical gear and just all kinds of cool stuff. So, but they do sell, there's a couple of electronics outlets down there that sell things like, CB radios and amateur radio, ham radio stuff, and just anything and everything you want for the most part you can get down in Osu. So I'm gonna go down and get some caps, and I'll probably won't get it done before this video is done, but I'll report back at some point. I'll leave a comment whether that was the reason for it. But anyway, we are back with a little warm-up.
Check.
Awesome. All right, thanks for tuning in, people. Again, if you got a question, just ask me and in the comments below, and I'll try to answer your question. But hopefully, if you got an old machine like this, you can use these videos to help you get the confidence necessary to get in there and, at minimum, clean them up and get them looking better and sounding better. But hopefully, you can fix something that comes up on your machine or whatever. All right. Take care. Check out Vintage Audio Nagoya. This is probably going to be a keeper, but I list all kinds of stuff up there. Really cool things that show up from time to time. Thanks. I realized just now that I didn't give a good final look at it, so let's just take a good look at it now that it's been completely finished up. The hinges cleaned up and latches cleaned up pretty nicely, and everything's looking good back here. Our little trap door area. I didn't wax that. I'm going to put a little bit of wax on that actually. But the cabinet itself cleaned up really well. And it's looking terrific. The faceplate is just beautiful. The knobs cleaned up really nicely. It's just a gorgeous machine. Let's take a look at the inside again. Thanks again to Mr. Pseudo, assuming it's Mr. But our deck turned out really nice, and everything's lubricated. Well, I could get that a little bit better, actually. Got a new tape in it. Heads have all been polished up. It's ready for many more years of enjoyment.